Hi guys! Okay, so one of my subscribers asked me to do a labor and delivery story. So I'll start from the beginning. I will try and remember everything as best as I can. The times might be a little bit off just because I was in labor and I wasn't really looking at the clock. So I was due on October 30th, 2012, and I had my last doctor's appointment on the 29th. Corey had work the night before, and it was an early appointment, so I figured I would let him stay home and sleep, and I went with my mom. So we got there, and at this point, my original, my OB, she's my gynecologist as well, she had a baby in August, so she was on maternity leave. And I was just getting passed around from doctor to doctor, and no one was able to see me, so I had my last appointment with the nurse practitioner. So we went in, and this was probably around, I think it was 9:50 my appointment was. So we went in, and she checked me, and I was still almost 1 centimeter, but not quite, and 50% effaced, which is what I had been since around 36 weeks. So I had no progress within that time. But my blood pressure was high, so they wanted to just send me over and induce me because they were afraid for the baby and for myself. So she told me to go home and get my stuff and to go to the hospital. And I was there when she called the hospital to tell them that I was on my way, that she wanted me to be induced. So I was so excited. I was so ready for Noah to be born, and I was glad that it was now because Hurricane Sandy had begun at this point. So I was a little nervous that I didn't want to go into labor during the hurricane. So I was glad that I would already be at the hospital. So I went home and woke Corey up, got my bags, took my last picture being pregnant. I was so excited. We got to the hospital, and I'm there, and we sign in, and I'm in a triage room, and the doctor comes in, not my doctor, just the random doctor on call. He comes in and he checks me, and he's like, "Oh, you're still not even quite 1 centimeter and 50% effaced. Your cervix is definitely not ready. You're still hard. You're not softened out or anything. This baby is not ready to be delivered." And I was like, "But they said that they were going to induce me. That she called." And he was like, "No, well, I'm going to make the decision that we're going to send you home and let you be you're going to go on your own. If you don't go by November 12th, we will set up an induction date." So I was like, okay, so I'm going to go 2 weeks over my due date and then have to wait another week until I'm induced. So I was furious. I was so upset because I was so pregnant and so upset and so miserable. And plus that they were sending me home in the hurricane, which had already kind of gotten kind of bad. It was really windy outside. It was raining pretty hard at this point. So I was kind of mad that they sent me home. So we went home, and I was really bummed out. I think I cried my eyes out the whole way home. And I just kind of bummed out. We got home, we went to the hospital at 11, and we got home around 3:30 maybe. They just monitored me and everything. My pressure went down. So I ended up going home, and we got home in around 5:30. Corey left for work, and I begged him not to go because I was so upset that just the whole day that we had and I got sent home, and plus it was really raining and it was so windy outside, and I was afraid for him to drive to work, but he had to go, so we went. So I stayed home and cried, and I was so sad the whole day. So after Corey left for work, I took a bath, and I decided that I was just going to take a nap, try and get my mind off of it, just because I was so bummed out and I didn't want to think about it anymore. So I took a nap, and around 8 o'clock, 8:30, I woke up, and I wasn't having contractions or anything. I felt totally normal. I just kind of stayed in bed, watched TV, I made something to eat, and I just kind of hung out for the rest of the night. I tried to go to sleep around midnight, but I couldn't fall asleep because I had taken a nap. So I was just kind of on my phone, on Facebook, etc. And it was around 3:30 in the morning, and I got a stomach ache. It wasn't contractions, it just felt like I ate some greasy food and I had a stomach ache. And I felt a little bit nauseous. So I just continued to try and lay down. I think it was like around 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, 4:30. It was like 4:15, we'll go. My power went out. I was like watching TV and I heard my phone like uncharge and I knew that it was the power had gone out. So I just kind of try and lay down. I decided that I was going to try and go to sleep. At this point, I was like getting kind of tired. So I lay down and I closed my eyes. And I remember I was laying on my left side and I started getting like this weird like stomach ache, like cramps, but like not contractions. It was just like kind of like an uncomfortable thing. Um, and my power was still out. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just go to sleep. And like at that moment, I like thought I peed my pants. So I like got up and I have no power in my house. So I like go to the bathroom. Um, thank God, like when I got to the bathroom, my power came back on, which was great because I wouldn't be able to see anything in there. And it like I sat down and it just like the rest of it just like gushed out, like my water broke. What I thought was my water. So I started freaking out, and I was like, okay, maybe I just peed my pants. Maybe I just peed my pants, because I've done that once before. I thought my water broke, and it was just pee. So, like, I went in my room, and I changed, and it just, like, kept coming out. Like, I couldn't, like, I was just soaking through my sweatpants. It was so gross. So I called Corey, and I was like, Corey was still at work. It's probably, like, 5 o'clock now. And Corey gets out of work at like 5:45, 6 o'clock. So it was like good that he only had like an hour and he could leave. I called him and I was like, I think my water broke. Like, I'm not having any contractions, but I'm pretty sure my water broke. It keeps coming out. It doesn't smell like pee. It's gross. And he told me, he's like, oh, well, call the doctor, see what he says. So I called the hospital and they told me, the same doctor that checked me the day before and told me I wasn't going to go anytime soon because my cervix was still hard. He told me, he's like, okay, we'll come in and we'll check you. So I didn't even bring like my hospital bags. I brought nothing, just me, because I figured, well, it's just another false alarm. So we went in and it was still raining and it was still kind of really windy outside, but we made it fine. By the time I got to the hospital, I was starting to have contractions. And I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm in labor. He checked me, the nurse checked me, and they do like the swab to see if your water broke, and it like nothing came up. And I was like, oh my God, this is not happening. I know my water broke, like I know it did. She came back in about 30 minutes later, checked me again, still nothing, wasn't showing up that my water was broken. So the doctor came in, he did it, he's like, oh no, I don't think it was, I think your mucus plug just broke. And I was like, no, you listen to me, because I was so mad at him from the day before. I was like, my water broke, it's my due date, like, I'm in labor, even if I'm not in labor, like, just induce me, it's my due date, like, I'm 40 weeks pregnant today, I just want to have this baby. So he did, like, an internal, and I was 1 centimeter, and when he checked me, my water, like, the rest of it just, like, continued to gush out, and it was, like, bloody and gross, and he was like, oh, okay, you're definitely having a baby today. So they admitted me around 6:30, and at that point, I was, like, comfortable, I wasn't in a lot of pain, they set my IV up, and I filled out all the paperwork and everything, called my mom, called Corey's mom, and they both came down. Around noon, I was starting to get like really uncomfortable with my contractions. At this point, I was 5 hours, like 5 or 6, between like 7 hours in, because my water broke at like 5 o'clock. So I was starting to get kind of uncomfortable, and I decided that I wanted to go in the tub, which helped until like 2 o'clock. It was really good. I stayed in there for a long time. The warm water was great with helping my contractions. Around 2:30, I got out, and then I decided that I wanted to get IV drugs. I was in kind of a lot of pain. They were horrible. I hated them. They just made me super tired, and I would like fall asleep, but then like every 2 to 3 minutes, I would wake up and with a contraction. It was just so like kind of like a tease. Like I just wanted to relax, and I couldn't. So around 4 o'clock, I got my epidural, and it was wonderful, and I slept until around 6. And then my epidural wore off, and like it was so bad because my contractions were so strong at this point, and my epidural just completely wore off. And they didn't give me a lot of the epidural because he said I was so small, and he didn't want to numb me so much where I couldn't push, which ended up happening anyway. But they came back in and they gave me more, and I was trying to like lay on my left side, but I was so numb. Like I couldn't feel my legs at all. Like I couldn't even turn my hips to like move myself. I was really uncomfortable and I wanted to like lay on my left side and I couldn't move my legs. So my mom and Corey were like trying to like pick my legs up and like turn me over and I just couldn't do it. And I was getting so upset and I started crying and I was like, I just want to lay on my side. Like I'm so uncomfortable. So at that point I was like 8 centimeters. I know she came in, she checked me at 6 and I was 1, and then they checked me again at 12 and I was 4, and then they checked me at 6 and I was like 7, almost 8. So she checked me again and I was at like 8 centimeters. I was fully thinned out, and when my mom went to get her at like after she checked me the last time, it was probably like a half hour in between when she checked me and my mom went and got the nurse. She was like, she's really uncomfortable. She just wants to like get in a different position. So she came back in and she's like, I want to check you again. I think you're ready to push if that's how you're feeling. So she checked me and she was like, yeah, you're 10 centimeters. So let's start doing some practice pushes. The doctor that delivered Noah was delivering twins and had a C-section that night. So I was kind of afraid he wasn't going to be there, but he was. And I did some practice pushes and I was so numb that I literally couldn't push. I thought that they were going to have to take me down to the OR and do a C-section. So I pushed for probably an hour and 15 minutes or so. They used the suction on him because I couldn't push him out. I was just so exhausted and so tired. I couldn't breathe at all. I had oxygen on me because I was like hyperventilating and freaking out because I didn't know what to do, and I was so numb I couldn't push. So at 9:50, Noah was finally born on October 30th, 2012, which was his due date, and he weighed 7 pounds, 2 ounces, and he was 20 inches long. So that's my labor and delivery story.